Esmerelda's Castle, written by Amanda Peterson, illustrations by ChatGPT. Chapter 1. A castle of her own. Esmerelda dreamed of a castle of her own, where she would be queen, and rule a small community with a gentle and fair hand. There was plenty for everyone to eat, and everyone was healthy and happy. Her dream was so sweet and comforting that she did not notice the giant remove the bale in front of her family's home. Her brothers could barely save themselves by squeezing through a hole in the wall. Chapter 2. A new home. Esmerelda was just a baby, so when the farmer gently lifted her up and placed her in his pocket, she froze, not knowing what to do. When the giant was done with his chores, he brought Esmerelda home to play with his two daughters. They took her to their playroom and set about making her a beautiful place to live. Barbie was moved out of her dream castle, and Esmerelda was moved in. They made her a soft bed and decorated her with Barbie's bows and backpack. All of the girls' games now involved their new furry friend, Esmerelda. She helped them complete puzzles, acted as a character in their make-believe stories, and joined them for tea parties. She even sat with them while they did their homework. She learned everything they learned, like how to read adventure stories, how to follow a map, and even how to write her name. Whenever Esmerelda did a good job or learned a new trick, the farmer's daughters would go to a special food bin with a complicated latch, which, in time, Esmerelda learned to open herself, and get her a fruit-flavored cereal loop, called a Fruit Loop. To Esmerelda, the loops were like jumbo-sized delicious donuts. In time, Esmerelda thought less about her tiny home in the barn with her brothers, and learned to think of the farmer's daughters as her sisters. One day, Esmerelda noticed her feet hanging off her Barbie bed, and when she stood up, she hit her head on the ceiling. "Ouch!" she cried when her head thunked the ceiling. Her cry woke Evie, the farmer's gentle, furry, golden dog. "Okay, Essie?" inquired Evie thoughtfully. "I keep hitting my head and getting stuck," explained Esmerelda. "Why is my castle getting smaller?" "Oh," said the wise and sweet Evie, "that happens, Essie. You are growing up. Soon you will need a bigger home. But there is not a bigger dollhouse. What will I do?" Martin, the farmer's other dog, a sassy corgi with big ears and short legs, was laughing to himself. He was not as gentle as Evie, but he liked Esmerelda. Everyone did. "Essie," he laughed, "you need a new home that is not made for dolls. All the others like you live in the barn. I have seen them. They have families and plenty to eat." "Well, that would be nice. Do they have Fruit Loops in the barn?" asked Esmerelda. "I've never seen Fruit Loops, but they eat the horse's grain." The farmer whistled for the dogs. They perked their ears and ran from the room. Esmerelda felt very scared and sad. She liked her castle and Fruit Loops to eat, and the farmer's daughters were very nice to her. She decided that it was fine, and that she would stay here with the girls and live happily ever after. Unfortunately, that is not how growing up works, and one day soon after, she got stuck in her castle door, and the farmer had to take it completely apart to free her. Esmerelda was so sad that her castle was ruined. The girls tried to comfort her by making her a bed from a shoebox by the window, but it wasn't the same. It just reminded her of the brothers she had lost, and how they had shared a soft bed like this. Sad feelings sometimes make it hard to get out of bed, so Esmerelda lay in the box and looked out the window for many hours, missing her brothers and the castle. Eventually she got a crayon and drew what she saw. Sometimes drawing could help her feel better when she was down. She drew all the details she could see. The big red barn, a dirt trail, a fence with ivy growing on it, and two scary-looking crows perched in a maple tree. A little spark of happiness began to warm her, imagining herself living in that barn with others like her, and plenty of room and food to eat. Chapter 4. The Ivy Fence. That spark of happiness and hope felt so good she wanted to share it, so she took her drawing to Evie. "Evie, I want to go here," she said with confidence. "Do you know how?" "Oh, Esmerelda, you will like the barn, but getting there might be hard," she said, studying the picture. "You will need to get to the fence without anyone seeing you. Then you can travel under the ivy for safety. The hardest part will be the crows. They are very hungry and will eat whatever they can catch. Their names are Voldor and Mort. You will need to bring them something to eat." "I have an idea for that," said Esmerelda, thinking of the Fruit Loops canister. "But after that, it looks like it is still a long way to the barn. How will I get down the open path?" "I'm not sure," said Evie. I will help you if I can. Esmeralda said goodnight to Evie, and thought long and hard about the plan. That night she dreamed of all the adventure stories she had read, but with her as the hero, her confidence grew with each dream, and when she woke to see that the window to the outside was a little open to let in the cool night air, Esmeralda felt that spark of happiness again, and it filled her heart, then overflowed. When the feeling was in her pores, she jumped out of bed, slipped out the window into the cool, damp evening, and lowered herself down to the wet grass. The sun was just beginning to turn the sky, the pinks and purples of dawn, and the farmer would be at the barn soon. Her heart thumped so fast she felt her fear return, and thought about returning to her shoebox, but then, she remembered her dreams of being a queen, and having a big family and community, and she knew a shoebox for a home was not in her future. She dashed for the ivy fence, and she heard the crows, who were just waking up and looking for breakfast, let out a loud caw, caw. She knew this must be Volder or Mort, alerting that she was a possible fast food breakfast, so she dove under the thick ivy to hide from their sight. Esmeralda was tired. She lay under the shade and protection of the ivy, and tried to catch her breath. Mort and Voldor flew down and sat on the fence above, and waited to see if she would come out. It turns out, the ivy fence was like a creature subway filled with critters avoiding Voldor, Mort, the farmer, and other dangers. A blind mole shuffled by her, talking to himself, and in the distance she saw some thin rats like her moving slowly, bent over and having a bad day. "Are you okay?" she asked. And when their eyes raised to see who spoke to them, she saw the same kind eyes she had known as a baby. They were her brothers. You can imagine how Esmeralda and her brothers squeaked with happiness to see each other, hugging, crying, to see their long-lost family. Chapter 5. The Deal. Esmeralda, we thought the farmer took you away forever. We waited as long as we could for you to come back, but now we had to leave the barn to find a new home. The farmer has locked up all the grain, and we need to find a home where there is food. She considered this and remembered that she knew how to open locked-up food. She told them the good news, that they could return to the barn to live as a family. Just then, a huge nose started snuffling into the entry to the ivy tunnel. It was Evie. "Essie, is that you I smell?" asked Evie. "Hi, Evie," Essie said, greeting her friend. Her brothers, terrified of the farmer's dogs, were hiding in the distance. "Don't worry," calmed Esmeralda. "Evie is a friend. I heard Mort and Volder talking loudly about someone running from the house, and I thought it might be you. They are out here on the fence. You will need to make a deal with them to get safely to the barn. I would chase them away, but they can be very mean. It would be better to make a deal," advised Evie. Esmeralda remembered her backpack with 2 Fruit Loops. Legs shaking, she crawled to the edge of the ivy tunnel and called to Volder and Mort, who were staring at her with hungry eyes. "I want to make a trade," she called. The huge birds glanced at each other and smirked. They liked the idea of a trade. "If you let me get to the barn without alerting the farmer or hurting me, I will give you some of the most delicious food you have ever had, a Fruit Loop. This is the food of the giants." The crows could not hide their excitement. They danced and hopped on the fence. "Yes, yes, a deal," they replied. Esmeralda tossed them out the Fruit Loops, which they snatched up, and then flew away, in a great fluttering of black feathers. Chapter 6. The Secret Ride. Evie was impressed. "Great idea, Essie, that worked perfectly. Now you just need to get down the dirt path without the farmer seeing." Esmeralda considered the path and the large opening to the barn, and it reminded her of a story she read, where the hero hung under a sheep to escape through the doorway of a giant's home. "Evie," she asked, "would you let me hold onto your fur when you go back in the barn?" "I could," said Evie. "What an excellent idea." Esmeralda rolled under Evie, and held her fur tightly with all her paws and completely disappeared from view in the fluffy golden fur. Evie carried her little passenger to the doorway of the barn, where the farmer stopped her and gave her a few pets. Esmeralda held tight to the fur and held her breath while the farmer's hands ran down Evie's back, coming inches from her own fur. Evie played her part perfectly. She wagged her tail and trotted away when the farmer called her a good girl. "I guess I will be seeing you around here," said Evie, smiling as Esmeralda let go of her fur and squeezed into a hole in the barn wall. "Yes," said Essie. "I can't thank you enough." That is what friends are for, reminded Evie, and she went back to her farm dog work. Chapter 7. The Feast. That night, under the cover of darkness, her brothers returned to the barn and cheered and celebrated Esmerelda's adventure, which they had watched from the ivy tunnel. Evie, you have so many good ideas, can you help us find some food? They asked, having seen that Esmerelda was very clever. I think I might. Where is the grain bin? All of her family came out from hiding, her old mother and father, brothers and distant cousins, and they showed Esmerelda the newly locked up grain. When Esmerelda saw the bin, a big smile brightened her face, and she climbed to the latch, which was the same latch that was on her Fruit Loops canister. She pushed the lock up one click and pulled the latch free to open the bin. Her family cheered, and a great feast began. Chapter 8. Queen Esmerelda. After everyone had eaten, she gave a wise speech. We can stay here forever if we close up the grain each night and clean up our mess. The farmer will not mind us being here if we don't make it obvious. Each night I will open the latch and we can eat until we are full, and then rest all day. Her parents and brothers looked so proud to see her giving a great and wise speech to all the family. Someone from the back yelled, "Thank you, Esmerelda, you saved us." And another yelled, "Esmerelda for president." Then another started a chant, "Queen Esmerelda! Queen Esmerelda!" Esmerelda was very honored, and she remembered her childhood dream of being queen. A tear came down her cheek as the spark of happiness filled her up and overflowed. Esmerelda and her family lived their best life forever after, in harmony with the farmer in the Great Red Barn.